A few hours after sacking all service chiefs, President Bola Tinubu approved the immediate dissolution of governing boards of all federal government parastatals, agencies, institutions, and government-owned companies in the exercise of its constitutional powers and in the public interest. Although this dissolution does not affect boards, commissions, and councils listed in the third schedule, Part 1, Section 153 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. He says this move will further provide transparent, equitable, effective, and accountable service delivery to all Nigerians. Joining us via Zoom from Abuja to talk more on this is economist and public affairs analyst Mayokun. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Good morning, Veronica. Good morning, Mike. Thanks for having me this morning.
Right. Now, many Nigerians have hailed this move by the president about the dissolution of boards. But for the understanding of some of our viewers, what is the benefit of this decision and this move by the government to dissolve these boards?
Well, somebody said the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. For some years now, our bureaucracy has been bloated and continues to get bigger and bigger despite the lean resources and dwindling resources as they were. I believe that this is an opportunity for a reset, both in terms of content and in terms of context. More than 2 years ago, I think the DG of the Budget Office mentioned that our MDAs have become a huge drain on the country's resources. Their recurrent expenditure are in trillions. And if we are spending 10 trillion on fuel subsidy and we are spending 5-7 trillion on recurrent expenditure for MDAs, more than half of which have clearly outlived their usefulness, or their usefulness is not relevant in this day and age, then something has to be done and done really fast. We can't be competing with US and other first world countries in terms of numbers of MDAs. Many of them have a duplication of efforts. Many of them have bots that are clearly not useful for this day and age. So I believe what Mr. President has done is to hit what we call a hard reset in this day and age. Let everybody go home. Let us begin now to look at what is the relevance of each of these boards, of each of the MDAs. The MDAs account for almost 1,000, the corporations to about 500 of them. I don't know what exactly we are doing. We tend to think Nigeria is a rich country. Maybe we have some resources, but clearly when you compare with the 200 million people that we have, we don't have the leeway to be spending resources the way we have. So it's an opportunity to downsize the number of MDAs that we have by a lot. If you ask me, I will tell you we don't need more than 200, 250 MDAs and corporations to run this country. Many of them clearly have duplications of efforts. They step on each other's toes and what have you. You see the bickering, you see the fights, especially with those ones that we perceive as being juicy MDAs. NDDC is a case in point. NHIS is another. You want to see, okay, what exactly can we do? The process should be the first thing that the presidency and the government at the federal level to focus on streamlining the process, so that people don't see appointment to boards as opportunities for them to maybe leave their day jobs. The fact that you are on the board of a federal government parastatal does not mean that you now leave your day job. That now becomes your pot of soup. These are people that are supposed to be chosen on account of maybe their knowledge, the kind of contributions they can bring to the running of those MDAs individually. So I've also looked at this. Another thing you can do is to have what we call super boards. You don't need board for every Tom, Dick, and Harry of an MDA. have a super board, maybe 10, 15, 20, MDAs at the time. You compress them, then you have one board, because the board especially is supposed to meet once in a quarter to look at the views. They are not the one doing day-to-day running of those organizations. So it's something that has come in the nick of time. I just want to hope that it's not about getting job for the boys going forward. The president should not run into constituting boards for each of the ones that have been relieved now. What should be done is to look at the process, look at how money comes in. Are they generating revenue? Are they, do they serve specific interests? Are their jobs duplicated somewhere else? So there are many questions. We can't talk of all of it now, but I'm sure this is an opportunity for a reset and one that should be done going forward.
All right. Now, we see that the boards are not the bodies that run the day-to-day activity or the process of the agencies as it is. They have their DGs and their committees and their directors and all the chairman, depending on which one we're talking about. So what Nigerians would ask, what is the role of the boards in the first place? How do they come in, and why do we even have them in the first place?
Well, for corporations, I think taking a lead from that, the idea of board is to provide an oversight and provide direction for the company. It's like God telling you, go and do this. Then you now have to figure out how to do it. Then every 3 months you come back in prayer and say, okay, see what I've done. Am I in line with what you said for me at the beginning of the year or at the beginning of the quarter? So the board is supposed to be like the wise men, maybe 3 wise men or 7 or however they are, to guide the managing director, the CEO, or the executive secretary, or whatever the name we call it, in setting direction, the big name directions, so that he has an anchor with which to drive whatever is overseen in the day-to-day operation. But that doesn't mean that they should now become overlooking or maybe standing on the shoulders of the CEOs or the secretary or whoever it is that is executive position for those organizations. The problem we have here is that everybody believes in status cars and security. If you are in charge of a parastatal, for instance, that is clearly making money, and you see that even the executive directors or managers are living like they have status car. If they make you a board member, the first thing you want to see is maybe 2022 Prado Jeep and maybe policemen and what have you. So if there are 7 members, you want to see that. The next thing is that you're interested in who it is that is getting the contracts coming out from such MDAs. So all these things, if the CEO doesn't align well or he aligns well so that they will allow him to have his way, the next thing you see is corrupt practices here and there. But with the single treasury account, if well implemented, that would have been a way to curtail on some of the excesses. So that's why I mentioned the issue of process earlier. We should have a common treasury account for the federal government. Every money coming in should go there. Then you now make your demands as it were. Streamline the process, but don't allow everybody to have their own separate account. Don't give too much leeway, If you check UK government websites, of which I have some knowledge, we find out that everything you are looking for is on uk.gov. You understand? You want to pay for driving license, driving test, you pay into that account. But in Nigeria, road safety, we have separate account. This person, we have separate account. Then consultants all over that take half of whatever chunk of money is coming into the account of federal government. At the end of the day, the government has left office. You'll be hearing that, okay, one account was unaccounted for. There's 10 trillion there. There's 500 million in one account. If some people will keep it there, 5 years later, if nobody asks for it, they divert it into private funds. These are the problems we are having. So government should focus on the process. We can't be saying that fuel subsidies is unsustainable, and yet we want to sustain a bloated bureaucracy with 1,500 MDAs. It's quite clearly not the way to go for any government that is sincere.
Now, you've been speaking on hammering on the matter of government focusing on process. If you could just expatiate on what you mean by government focusing on that aspect.
Okay, one of it is what exactly are we here to do? What is the function of the process? If you need to send the board appointees on trainings before they assumed whatever positions they are coming in. Please do. Some of them think it's their meal ticket. They think we've worked for the party. I've been appointed as a board member of NHIS. So at least if 1 billion is coming in as a board member, I should have some, even if it's 50 or 100 million, should come to me. You know, I want to know who are the contractors. These are not the reasons why you are appointed. You are appointed to provide oversight. How can we increase engagement? How can we increase adoption? I'm just using NHIS. It's littered everywhere.